I like the ice skating scene, even though I know it wasn't Cary Grant.
Right.
It was obviously not Cary Grant.
Uh,
Welcome to Holiday Film Countdown. I'm Jamie Walter, and today we are going to New York.
That's right. This film is The Bishop's Wife, our 29th ranked holiday film. Hello, I'm Tim Walter. If your marriage is in trouble, try ice skating with an angel and your Uber driver. Of course, a little divine intervention also helps.
Our first guest is Jane Giordano. Hello, Jane. Please let us know what you're drinking and give us a quick thought on The Bishop's Wife.
well, I'm drinking Waterloo Orange Vanilla. And every time I took a sip, I felt like I was walking into a room that had a vanilla candle.
Set the mood. There were candles in the film, so
Right.
that's good.
So I enjoyed the film. I'm old enough to appreciate the Cary Grants, the David Nivens, and Loretta Young.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was fun to see them. And of course, it was a feel good film, which I always enjoy.
All right. And our other guest is Joe Giordano. Hey, Joe, what are you drinking and what's your initial thought on this film?
Well, I'm drinking St Cecilia in Italian, Cecilia,
All
blood
right.
orange, and it's delicious.
Excellent.
My first thought on the movie was that you just don't see movies with as much, I would say, religious content or implication or, connected toward morality like we saw here. And of course, for me, the theme was if you're focused on, an edifice, you might lose sight of the things that are really important in your life, which again, it's a nice theme.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It is the most religious one so far in our countdown.
Yeah. And I'm drinking coffee, which I had a couple of cups of coffee and totally enjoying it with this cold weather outside. And my quick thought on the movie is, to me, it came across pretty mysterious.
Okay.
When I first watched it, I was wanting to keep watching it to know exactly what was going on.
I agree. We didn't know where it was going. And I'm also drinking the St. Cecilia blood orange, sparkling, very good. And I'm going to say why it's where it is in this countdown. And it's because it's quality, it's heavy, spiritual, as Joe mentioned, strong Christmas themes, big time old Hollywood stars. And we need some of that in here.
The Bishop's Wife was written as a novel by Robert Nathan. Robert Sherwood and Leonardo Bercovici wrote the screenplay adaptation. It was directed by Henry Coster. Most famously, Coster was credited for discovering Abbott and Costello, old school radio, film, and TV stars. The Bishop's Wife was released in 1947, the same year as Miracle on 34th Street.
Yep. And of course, Miracle on 34th Street made this countdown. It's ranked high up in the rankings. Primary filming of The Bishop's Wife was at Samuel Goldwyn Studios in Hollywood. And Samuel Goldwyn, his last initial G, is the G in MGM. Some exterior shots were filmed in Minneapolis, which, by the way, teaser here, is the setting of our next holiday film coming up next week.
Yeah.
And Cary Grant, Loretta Young, and David Niven, as Jane had mentioned, are the stars of this film.
So, Jane, what is your history with The Bishop's Wife? Have you seen it before?
I have not seen it before. And I don't recall seeing it as one of the Christmas movies that's shown every year. I mean, Miracle on 34th Street, and the other movie around Christmas time, It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
This one I had never heard of, so I had no idea what it was about. And I wasn't familiar with the remake either, so.
Okay. It came up in our searches.
Yeah.
So we've gone through a process of trying to pick some out from the past, and this one kept coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, what's your history with The Bishop's Wife?
Well, I hadn't seen it either. And as Jane said, it isn't one that I've even seen advertised on any old movie channels. One immediate impression I had is that it was black and white. And so many things have been colorized these days. I was kind of surprised that we weren't looking at a colorized version of the film. But as it went on, and as I observed the, let's say, religious tone of the film, made me think that, maybe the effort to colorize it, I don't know if it has been, but the effort to colorize it wasn't made because people thought that it was a bit dated in modern life.
Yeah. And it looked like it was all black and white anywhere there, right? Everything was brown looking. It was so dark. I'm sure a little color would have helped, but the tones were so, I don't know, I guess that was called a parsonage, and the churches were so dull. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe just it was dark, it was winter, and maybe it really comes across as very cold as we saw a lot of snow, and we'll get into that later. But
I mean, I guess the trees would have popped a little
yeah,
in color.
yeah. Well, I'm kind of like you all. I didn't really have much of a history coming in to seeing this. Of course, I watched it when we were getting the list for the countdown. So I've seen it one other time prior to today, but I haven't heard about it or seen it either. So it was kind of a surprise to me when it kept coming up in our search.
Same here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just kept coming up on the list. So I've seen it exactly one time before in the summer as we were prepping our rankings.
Hmm. All right, then let's go check out the trailer.
Hollywood, California, and the studios where the distinguished pictures that bear the name of Samuel Goldwyn are produced. Such films as The Best Years of Our Lives, winner of 9 Academy Awards. It was in these very studios that we recently tried to make a trailer for a new and wonderful picture called The Bishop's Wife. You know what a trailer is. One of those little films you see at your theater which shows you scenes from some big picture that's coming soon. Well, we made the big picture, and it's on its way. But something happened to the little one. It was on the day we finished all work on The Bishop's Wife. Stars were on their way home.
About the trailer.
Trailer?
I forgot all about it.
Just a minute, folks. I'm sorry. Can't go in without a pass.
Oh, well, you see, we work here. That is, we just finished over there. Now we...
All right, so you're finished. There's no one stopping you from leaving.
You don't understand. We still have to make the trailer.
Well, I'm sure you wouldn't want to stop us from telling people about a great picture like The Bishop's Wife.
I'm David Niven, and I play the bishop.
And I'm Loretta Young, and I play The Bishop's Wife.
I'm Cary Grant. I play... Oh, that's right.
Now, wait a minute. What's the matter?
Nobody's supposed to know what part I play until they see the picture.
Then what do you need of the trailer?
Well, we'd like folks to come in and see the picture. It's very fine, and it's quite the most unusual picture Sam Goldwyn's ever made.
Oh, yeah, it's full of surprises.
All right, well, that is definitely a different trailer. It was like a little skit that they did. They didn't take the clips from the movie at all. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. What did you think of the trailer, Jane?
Well, I thought that they thought that the Hollywood stars, Cary Grant, David Niven, and Loretta Young, were enough to
Yep.
entice the public to go see the movie. And I think I would have been convinced.
Yeah, that's some star power right there.
Big time. And a lot of mystery. What'd you think, Joe?
Yeah, I agree with Jane. In a sense, it was ahead of its time because nowadays you get movies where they just tell you really who the stars are. And, you're supposed to have a fan base. And, I want to see anything with whatever, Sylvester Stallone or whoever the latest key star is. And also they began it with Goldwyn telling you about, well, I did make this picture that had 9 Academy Awards, so I must know what I'm doing. So, I thought it was modern.
A little flex there by Samuel.
Exactly. A little ego trip.
And then a little Hollywood aerial shot, not a drone, but similar. And I think I would consider using that method for my trailer if I had the chance to, because it caught our attention. And apparently even the police at the studio act.
Well, and no one can say, oh, they gave away all the best parts in the trailer because there were no parts given away except for just what character they play.
Except for Cary Grant.
Yeah,
We don't even know what
exactly.
he's gonna
But
be.
we're still curious about what he's going to be.
All right. So here are some fun facts. People initially thought it was a truly religious film. So in some markets, it was rebranded as Carrie and the Bishop's Wife just to provide a broader appeal. Also, originally Cary Grant was to be the bishop and David Niven the angel. But director Henry Koster swapped the roles when he took over from the original director. Again, it was released in 1947 and premiered at the Astor Theater in New York. The Bishop's Wife was the inspiration for the 1996 remake titled The Preacher's Wife. Whitney Houston and Denzel Washington star in that one, and it is also to come in our countdown. The Bishop's Wife scored a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and we will all be giving our own reviews and scores later. So what y'all think about that stuff? Do you know the Astor Theater, by the way? Does it ring a bell? Is it still around?
I
didn't
have
look it
no idea.
In New York.
In New York.
In New York, yeah.
I
I
know
don't
that's-
think it's still
I know
around.
it's a really wealthy name, a name of a
Yes,
wealthy family.
Jacob Astor,
Mhm.
sure.
But I
Furs.
don't know if the theater's still there. It's a tough
Yeah.
business.
Theaters in
Yeah.
those days were, I mean, when you went to the movies, it was a big deal. When you'd walk into a major theater and there'd be a fountain and, murals and see one film, maybe there was depending on the film, there might have been a reel, but it was a much bigger deal. And one of the major draws of the theater was air conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
So typically homes did not have air conditioning, certainly not central air conditioning. They might have had one unit as in my case, my parents' bedroom.
Right.
But if you wanted to cool off on a hot summer night, you went to the movies.
Right. Even in New York.
I think it was a wise decision for Henry to switch Carrie and David, right? They switched the roles. I think that was a wise decision because just with the chemistry between the characters, I can't see it the other way, but maybe because I've already seen it and I can't unsee it. But I truly think that they were in the roles that they should have been in. I think it was wise.
And I think I read that initially Cary Grant was a little upset that there was this switch.
Oh.
But I think I read that somewhere.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, I agree with you, Jamie. I mean, it is the better role.
Yeah,
Yeah, he got more screen time as the angel.
right.
Yeah. And who doesn't want more screen time with
Dudley.
an angel?
I know.
Dudley. Yeah, and the bishop didn't get to play the harp either, by the way.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on then to the spirit of the season. We'll look at the holiday tropes. There were some, again, with the older films, we don't see quite as much as we do with the modern ones just because it wasn't so commercialized back then. But for this one being an older film, there was quite a bit of Christmas, I felt, because we did see the Christmas tree. It was a big deal, right? I love the professor's little tree that he was bargaining with at the tree lot. And then it was a big deal for her to go buy her tree, right?
Yes.
And then where else did we see a tree, a Christmas tree? Do you remember?
I saw some wreaths.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of the tree that, it was when it was decorated and he did his magic on the tree, right?
Dudley,
Can't-
yeah.
Dudley.
Dudley decorated.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, I'm old enough to remember when Christmas trees were decorated like that.
Uh-huh.
With the tinsel and everything.
It was quite full, right?
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of this tree one year that I had growing up. I was a little girl and there were three of us. I had a sister and a brother. And my parents just totally let us have our hand at it. And we had so many icicles thrown on that tree. I mean, we couldn't stop, And my parents were so sweet. They just left it. But boy, I've seen pictures and been like, whoa.
So do y'all remember I guess it was the very beginning when he's appearing on the street with the snow falling and the department store windows. Did you
Oh, yes. And that
catch that part?
is New York at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's over the years, it's definitely worth being in New York at Christmas time for those kinds of things. And the Saks Fifth Avenue windows was a must. You must go see them.
Is that the best one?
Well, it's one I remember anyway, but they all had their, and I'm sure there was some competition to outdo each other.
Sure. Oh, yeah. It's a big deal, right?
It was a big deal.
As Jane said, Saks Fifth Avenue would have the entire store would be virtually a city block, and it would be cut into little vignettes and scenes, and you would go from window to window and watch moving characters, animated kind of characters. And as Jane said, it was unusual that you would go to the store, not to shop necessarily, but just to look at the windows.
I mean, even nowadays, when they have it all done up in the store display in the windows, it's magical, right? Especially for a child to go see that. And this is how it kind of started off, right? They had the scene with it decorated as the angels, and then it moved on and it had Santa in another one.
There was a Santa.
You kind of get the feel of the magic in the air at Christmas time looking at it.
Yeah, we didn't have eggnog or mistletoe or elves.
Nope.
No carolers. No reindeer. We did have a big St. Bernard who was prominent. And that's about as close as we got. That was normally
Yep.
probably the only animal in the film. All right, well, let's move into the characters and actors. Cary Grant, British born, had an incredibly rough childhood. I mean, wow. Read this man's biography, it'll blow you away. He was originally a vaudeville stage actor, starred in 70 plus films, twice nominated for the Best Actor Oscar. Never did win, but hey, that's 2 times. That's great. His notable roles include An Affair to Remember and 4 Alfred Hitchcock films, including North by Northwest. He was originally being selected to be the first James Bond, but he would only commit to a single film, and they wanted a series, so that didn't work out. He was married 5 times, but only had 1 child, and he retired in 1966 to focus on time with his daughter. He had his child later in life. So what do we think of Cary Grant overall and in this film? How do you do?
Well, to me, it's typical. What do you think, Jane? Typical Cary Grant.
Still, in modern times, he would still attract an audience. Yeah.
Yes.
And yes, you mentioned North by Northwest.
Just so charming, right?
Uh-huh.
I think of Cary Grant as the George Clooney of his time, the suave leading man. In fact, this might be the only film that comes to mind where he didn't get the girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And if he hadn't have been an angel, he probably would have.
You see,
Yes.
tells you something about him.
Doesn't it?
It may be a remake yet in this day and age.
I don't know. He's been married 5 times, but I don't think he's busting up a bishop's marriage.
No, no,
I mean, come on.
no,
Not even Cary Grant.
no.
All right, and then we have Loretta Young starring as Julia Braun. She is the bishop's wife. She got started in silent films. She won the 1947 Academy Award for Best Actress as the farmer's daughter. Plus, she starred in another 100 films. She moved on to TV, and her show Letter to Loretta became the Loretta Young Show, ran for 8 years in prime time on NBC in the 50s, and she was a fashionista. Her contract stipulated that no reruns of certain portions of her show could be shown because she didn't want to be seen in an outdated evening gown.
Wow.
So, Jennifer Lopez, eat your heart out. That's a diva right there.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure she was. And I remember that about
Okay.
her. Definitely a fashionista. And I remember her in these. I seem to have this picture in my head, her on a spiral staircase in a gorgeous evening gown. So yes, that's how she can be remembered.
Was this a show that you all remember at all?
Yeah, I remember
yes.
seeing the Loretta Young in script
Okay.
as a TV show. I don't actually recall the show.
You were probably a kid who didn't really care about. She did.
Yeah, I was
Kind of-
interested in Davy Crockett at the
Yeah.
Yeah, this was,
I think you can say it's more of a woman's thing. Than,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. You know.
hey, we had Martha Stewart
Yeah.
in our era, so
You can see from her expressive eyes why she was in silent film.
absolutely.
So,
She could say a lot without moving her lips, right?
Yes. And she's very beautiful.
yes.
I
Yeah,
mean,
impeccable.
Yeah.
And also, I think she kind of reprised her role when I think she played a nun in one of her movies. And I saw a lot of the nun in her portrayal here.
We had run the trailer earlier today, and a little short bio on her came up. She was actually extremely religious.
Yes.
And if you look at her films and her roles, there are a lot of religious themes. And she also had a swear jar on set, and that money would be donated to good causes at the end of the
Yeah. If you
wrap.
That's
swore,
interesting.
then you had to pay for your mistake. And then, yeah, she would give it. That was a very interesting fact about her.
And she was more tolerant of the F word than she was of the G damn word.
And she did not like it if you talked against God.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that was interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
So how'd she do here? What do we think of her?
I mean, great.
I thought she was great too. Yeah.
I thought she was convincing.
Yeah.
in the role. And of course, at the end, you said Cary Grant was married 5 times, so Loretta Young may have been the only woman on earth that refused him, angel that he was,
Yep.
and ran away to save her marriage.
Yeah, I felt like she did a good job of portraying the innocence of their outings together. Like she was just there to have a good time. It wasn't nothing, you kind of got the feeling it wasn't more than that for her, even though you could see how on the outside looking at it, like the taxi cab driver thought that they were getting married, that it would be more. But then when you know the whole story, I don't know, I thought she did a good job of playing a little bit of that innocence look in her face, just wanting to have a good time and then running home to her husband.
Right. She was kind of bored
Yeah. Yeah. She just wanted to have a good time.
and a little lonely. So,
There was a point where even the thought of it, 'cause she kind of had a moral compass that, no,
Yeah.
this can't be.
Mhm.
I'm having fun, and that's all.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Right when they were going to go ice skating, she's like, I can't. I shouldn't do it. Why do I feel this way? Like I shouldn't be doing this, even though she ended up doing it. But yeah, she kind of held herself like,
Mhm.
should I be doing this?
All right. And then our final star, there were truly 3 stars here, was David Niven playing the bishop, Henry Brong. He's also British, like Cary Grant, which makes sense for a film about the Episcopalians / Church of England. His biography is also fascinating. He was more upper class Brit, whereas Cary Grant was impoverished, as I mentioned. He was a soldier, a raconteur, an actor, and a novelist. He started out his career with a non-speaking role in Mutiny on the Bounty, Captain Bligh, that's British. And then he won the 1958 Best Actor Oscar for Separate Tables. He also co-starred in 3 Pink Panther films. He was in a total of 100 films, 80 radio shows, and 100 plus television series or appearances.
Mm.
So quite a career.
Wow, that's a strong work ethic, right? That's a lot.
And if you look at the roles he plays, you can see the character names. A lot of them start with Sir. He's always kind of this proper gentleman. So, what do we know of David Niven before, and what do we think of his job in this one?
I believe he was in Around the World in 80 Days. And I remember that because my first part-time job when I was in high school was in usherette dash cashier in a movie theater.
Okay.
And this is going back some because the movie theater was one of these giant, not like we have today, several 10 films going on in one theater. This giant structure that had the orchestra and balcony.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we were a bunch of us who were seniors in high school worked in this movie theater as a part-time job. And it was kind of a fun thing because we got to see a lot of the films, including the first James Bond films and all of that. But Around the World in 80 Days was one of them. So we could play the roles because you got to know the dialogue very well, seeing it over and over again. But that was the first time I remember seeing David Niven.
Okay.
One of the regrets of my life is that I never got to see Jane in her What's New Pussycat outfit that she wore as an usherette at that time. I'm not sure if David Niven
For
was
the
in
film
that
of
movie.
the same name.
Yes.
It may not be too late. eBay has those.
Well, I'm now thinking
Outfits.
about where I can buy one.
There you go.
Yeah.
In the last century, I believe David Niven's book was Bring On the Empty Horses, which was a quote from a foreign-born director who, was trying to bring on the horses without riders. And Niven got a great kick out of that line, and he used it as the title of his book.
Okay. Wow. All right. And then do we have any other characters that we want to discuss? Any minor characters who steal the show a little bit, or any least favorites?
I liked Matilda.
Yeah.
She was fun.
Yeah, she was so impressed with Dudley.
And so helpful.
She
Yes.
ran around and opened the door.
Did.
Yeah.
I mean,
Moving.
when anyone was around, she was right there with them, either grabbing their jacket or taking it off or
Mhm.
getting them something.
She was on it.
One of the things I was struck by was the opulence of the way the bishop lived.
Mm.
I mean,
Yes.
wow.
Yes.
He had a staff, he had servants, he had a huge house, beautifully decorated. That was a little surprising.
It was. You're right.
Mhm.
Exactly. That those thoughts were going through my head now, that today we would never accept seeing a man of religion in that kind of environment.
Yeah, they may live that way, but we're not going to show it.
Another thing about the movie, it's a small thing, but I don't know that I've ever seen shots taken where one character is talking and the other character's back of his head, is in the camera. So, and he also was responding to talk. Normally they give you a full face shot and they switch back and forth,
Right.
or then show them together. So I don't recall ever seeing a shot like that in the movie. And I thought, well, maybe it's the first time that anyone has seen either Cary Grant or David Niven's back of their heads.
Yeah.
Well, who's that director? He was Henry Coster.
Mm-hmm.
So he was maybe trying to be innovative there.
Yeah. From a
Good
different
catch.
angle. Yeah.
I liked Mrs. Hamilton's butler. Was her name Agnes? Is that right?
Agnes.
Agnes. She was the large benefactor. Talking about opulent, her house was over the top. It was like a castle.
Yes.
And her butler was funny to me. I just liked his expressions. He didn't say much, but he was paying attention, and his eyes were just telling a story the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like Lurch from the Addams Family.
A little bit. He stood out.
All right. Do we want to move on to the scenes?
Yes.
All right. So I have one question. I want to start off with it. What was the purpose of when they went to the professor's house for him to keep filling up the wine bottle? Was it to get him to talk without being like, what was the purpose? Why did he do that? So every time he poured a glass of wine, the bottle stayed full, right? And he kept pouring it. I mean, they drank a lot, but I couldn't figure out why. Was it to get him to talk?
What was his motivation?
And for making the wine, or was it just showing that he had power like Jesus?
That's what I thought. I thought,
Okay.
well, just to show that, yeah,
He had that
he's an
power.
angel and he did
Right.
it because he could.
Right.
I mean, that guy was an academic, and he needed more than just a little sign. He needed something real.
As I
Yeah.
recall, Jesus converted water where the angel was using air and converting it into wine. So maybe he was topping Jesus on that.
Oh, goodness. That's a hot take. We'll get the hot takes later.
Yeah, sometimes these angels do get out of line. After all, we have had Lucifer.
True.
Yeah, we don't get Dudley banished here.
Maybe he was just trying, maybe that was symbolism. I'm stretching here.
Right.
Symbolism that the professor thought that he had emptied his ideas, and the angel was in his own way showing him that actually his bottle was always full, and he just had to go there and he'd find it.
Metaphoric.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you're
Yeah.
right, Joe,
Yeah.
because he did ask him then. He's like, let me just ask you a question. Will my book ever get written? Will it be finished? Remember, he asked him that. And of course, he said, yes, it will. You have time. Finish your book.
I think he was probably the first one saved as we went down the line here.
Yeah. Right.
What's your background?
My background?
Well, where do you come from?
Well,
And don't tell me any more about Vienna because I won't believe it.
all right. Supposing I told you I came from another planet, would you believe me?
I don't know.
I'd believe you, Dad.
And you'd be right, Julia, as always. We all come from our own little planets. That's why we're all different. That's what makes life interesting.
Okay. Well, I just would bring that one up because I was like, I didn't quite understand that, but just want to make sure I didn't miss the purpose of that. Any other memorable scenes?
Or favorites.
Yeah.
Well, I like the ice skating scene, even though I know it wasn't Cary Grant.
Right.
It was obviously not Cary Grant.
Obvi-
As a double, it really wasn't very
yeah,
good.
you could
Right.
tell the tech. Yeah, the,
Yeah.
The guy wasn't thin and
Yeah.
a great skater though.
exactly,
Especially for those times.
exactly. But
Very
that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That was the,
Yeah.
I agree. It brought a little levity.
Yeah.
I felt like it went on maybe a little bit too long. Like, okay, we get the idea, right? That you're making them dance beautifully. Even the cab driver
Yeah,
came
he had to
out.
get in on it.
Yeah. I was like, okay. I felt that scene went on maybe just a little too long, but it was fun. It was fun to see them out there. It was playful, which is kind of what they needed at that point.
But also the boys' choir.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
that was fun too, because to see what, again, because he could, to see what the angel could do, bringing them all together.
And we needed a little music at that point. There's a lot of dialogue in this film, so you need a little ice skating scene and a singing scene. And
And they did sound heavenly.
they were
Like,
great.
I was
Right.
impressed when that little boy by himself first started singing. I was like, wow, okay. That was some true talent. Maybe it was a miracle. I don't know. Or
Well, I'll
maybe
go
it's-
back to what Joe was saying. This is a very spiritual film.
Mhm.
This has more religious content than the rest of the prior 20 films combined.
Yeah. I thought at the park scene where the little girl was there playing in the snow, like there was a group of friends already there. Well, they weren't her friends, but they were friends. And they were playing some kind of game and she wanted to get in on it. And they didn't want her to because they thought she was too young or maybe perhaps just a girl. What can she do? I thought that scene looked, first of all, really fake with the snow. But it was a fun one to see how he uplifted her. And he goes, no, no, you can throw a snowball, pack it in tight. And then he goes, and throw your arm back and aim for his head. And when she did that, then the other kids were like, a curveball. She threw a curve.
Yeah. So she might be the first save. That happened before the professor scene.
Oh, okay. So
So
maybe,
maybe she was the first save.
right. Because then they were like, oh, I want her on my team. Right.
Plus, Buddy the Elf took that and ran with it in Elf 50
Ah.
years later. Snowball fight.
Snowball fight. Always a good scene, right?
Yep. Any other scenes come to
Some
mind?
people need to be hit in the head with a snowball to get it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And some snowballs are harder than others are, aren't they?
Yeah, don't wish for a snowball to hit you in the head.
No, they're not as soft as they look on TV.
I thought it was sad when he asked her to lunch and she was so excited because they were going to go to Michelle's. Was
Yep.
that the name of the place? The restaurant? And they had prior history with it. He proposed and everything. And she was like, oh, we haven't been there in so long. But then his work just wouldn't let him get there.
Ah,
But then it could have, right? He came home and was looking for her, but she went out and she actually went
I made it there.
and made it there, but not with him.
Yeah.
I was like,
That was kind of the pivotal part where things really had to start to come together. Or it was going to be over.
yeah. You could see
Right.
with their marriage, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But they created a little tension there
Yep.
because, again, Cary Grant, he's speaking French, he's completely at ease, he's very debonair. You could begin to think, well, maybe she would fall for him because, after all, it's Cary Grant and that's his normal role. So there was a little bit of tension in both there and in the skating scene that maybe what was going to happen is that they were going to find each other rather than she was going to find her husband, but that wasn't it.
You're right. You're right. The tables could have turned at that point. I thought it was funny the way he handled the women kind of snickering and look kind of like gossiping about her being at the restaurant at lunch with another man. He just gets up and invites them over to the table. Come sit with us and orders them all food and drink.
And at that point broke that tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're going to have a group lunch here.
Yes.
Full disclosure, right? Just, we're not hiding anything. Come sit by us.
Yes. We're just having a friendly lunch. Not romantic.
All right. Well, let's go on to quotable lines. Does anyone recall any particular quotable lines they want to bring back?
I'll start. I liked at the beginning, he comes home from work and the bishop asks, is dinner ready? And she says, yes, it is. Then let's get in there and get it over with.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That's a sure sign.
Yeah, like, okay. Just ready to get the dinner over with.
Wow.
There was another one that I wrote. It was, I can't help you until you tell me what you really want. And he couldn't tell him at the point. He kind of stumbled over it and then changed the subject because he was trying to figure out, do you want to mend things with your wife, with your marriage, or is it about getting the cathedral? Remember that
Oh, yeah.
point? So I liked it when he said, I can't help you until you tell me what it is. And then he never said. He walked away from
It
it.
took him a while to figure that
He
out.
hadn't realized
didn't
at that
really
point that
know.
it was a trade-off.
Yep.
He thought he could have it all, that he was taking his wife for granted.
Yep. You're right.
Yeah, I have a line from Dudley when he was first working with Henry and he needed to leave. And he said, there are plenty of people out there making plenty of mistakes. That's what he was going to take care of.
I also wrote one down from it. It says, I know so much about myself. I'm trying to think which scene I took that from. And she said, really? I don't know much at all about me. Do you remember that? No.
Who said it?
Cary Grant said, I know so much about myself.
Oh,
And then Julie said, I don't know much at all about myself.
pretty deep.
Yeah.
That's angel stuff.
Or I'm most serious when I'm joking. That was so funny. That was Cary Grant. Okay. The moral of the story. What are you thinking?
Where are we going?
What's the moral of this?
So, I mean, for me, it was that the bishop had put too much focus on his goal of the cathedral, this edifice, this giant building, which, has to have a little bit of an ego element to it.
Yes.
And he had, as you said about the dinner, let's get it over with. He had lost sight of the things in life that should be giving him pleasure. And I don't think he was realizing it because of his focus. He really wasn't thinking that way, that he was losing his wife. He wasn't making her happy. And if you don't make your wife happy, eventually the relationship may break apart. So he didn't know what he might be giving up. So the idea of the angel is to tap him on the shoulder in his own way. Actually, in good form, he allowed him to figure it out for himself over time rather than tell him what I've just said. And we, the audience, were going along and thinking along, and maybe we got it too.
Yeah. I don't think he knew happy wife, happy life.
Not yet.
He eventually realized that.
Right.
That's in the sequel.
Exactly.
But yes, it's material things in the final analysis does not make you happy.
Right.
And it's relationships. And that is what is the important thing.
And the ego of creating a legacy for the whole parish to know that Bishop Brom built this.
Right.
But really, what was important was going on in his home and enjoying the journey and not being so focused on that destination.
And also raising the money for the people who needed it instead of building
kidding.
this big cathedral. Let's go help the poor. Let's,
Absolutely.
you have this money, but are we really using it in the way that's really going to help our community and the people who need it most? Again, I think it was kind of preaching to us, right? They were saying it was the most religious, and definitely we're taught that. Don't get too caught up in the worldly goods, right? What's really important is our relationships and helping each other out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we all see eye to eye on that. All right. So, hot takes. Does anyone have a hot take on this film? Anything contra to what we've discussed?
I don't know if it's contra, but this was speculative fiction. And what I was thinking was that nowadays, if you saw a speculative fiction with a priest in it, he was headed somewhere to perform an exorcism.
Okay. There you go. I have a couple. First of all, a lot has changed over the years, but nothing has changed as much since 1947 as our idea of what a beautiful Christmas tree is.
True.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be a joke now.
Yes.
The other thing is kind of going back to the cathedral. I think, again, if there was a sequel, you take that precious coin, you could maybe fund a large portion of that cathedral. And if they're bursting at the seams over at St. Timothy's where they kept going, maybe they do need more capacity. And if the capacity is there, they can help more people. So just, again, not going against the message of the film, but sometimes you can't have both or have it all.
Maybe that was implied by the fact that he was given the coin and told it was very valuable. So we were supposed to think that was one possible outcome.
Right. They didn't resolve that. So we can in our heads.
Right. All right. Well, the parent guide is approved because there was no parent guide back then. It was just, is it approved or not?
This was pre-PG.
but
You're
it,
either in or out.
yeah. So it was either approved or not approved. And of course, I mean, there really wasn't anything in this film that would keep me from wanting children or anyone to see this film. I think it was
Yeah, pretty clean.
relatively clean and
As clean as they get.
appropriate for everyone, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it would, yeah, of course, you're right on one dimension, but, in our modern society, I'm not sure that everyone would agree that religion is a good thing. I mean, some people think it's just superstition and,
Very true.
deflects you from reality, and they might consider it bad publicity if you're trying to turn a young mind toward the more secular goals.
Sure. Yeah. We don't see many films like this anymore. It's just evolved over time. So you're right. Definitely different than the current messaging. All right, let's go on to the soundtrack. Very limited here. At the very beginning, we have Hark the Herald Angels Sing by a generic children's choir out on the street.
Hmm.
We have orchestral music in the background throughout, like a lot of these older films do. And then we have the scene that was mentioned by Jane earlier, where the Robert Mitchell Boy Choir was singing "Oh Sing to God." So that's what that was. That was beautiful. But again, older films don't have extensive soundtracks like we do now.
Right.
It was there, did its job, very efficient.
Yes, I think so. I like it when they start out with music, and it did start out with it. The movie, like it let you know.
Yeah, The
This-
Preacher's Wife, on the other hand, will be much different. You got Whitney Houston in that film, so
For sure.
Yes.
1996. We'll see where that goes.
Yes. Lots of music. All right, Jane. So rating it 1 to 5, what would you rate it and why?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, 3.5, maybe 4. For me, it's because I enjoyed the stars.
Mhm.
I enjoyed the Cary Grant, Loretta Young, and David Niven. So it was kind of a throwback for me, so I'd maybe give it a 4.
Okay.
In the context that I'm was kind of familiar with them, and at the time, I think it might have been because of those Hollywood stars gotten
Right.
more of an approval.
Right.
Okay. And what hasn't changed again from 1947 to now, unlike the Christmas trees, star power still sways big time in modern films.
It
So that's
does.
just it's the way it is. We go with what we know and we find the ones we like. All right. And Joe, how would you rate this 1 to 5?
Well, my mind puts it in a competitive context, and I would tend to say the 3.5 is fine because I think I would push people to watch Miracle on 34th Street or It's a Wonderful Life ahead of this one of the same genre. But again, 3.5 is not bad.
You're correct. 3.5 is very good. We've done 2.2s here. So just so you know.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 3.5 just because even though, I'm seeing it at this time because I obviously didn't see it way back when, but it kept my attention. And even though it was black and white, I'm not always that excited about black and white movies, but to me, it had an element of mystery. And I was curious of how it was going to play out. And when we were watching it for our first time, I was like, oh, it was really holding my interest. And I kind of tend to like that it has the same elements that a lot of the other Christmas movies have in it. To me, it's kind of like what I want to see at Christmas time.
Okay.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go ahead and put up a 3.7 on this one just to give it a slight bump.
There you go.
It was an hour and 49 minutes, and it didn't really feel like it for an older, like Jamie said, black and white film with heavy dialogue. It kept moving.
Yeah.
So I was entertained.
Mhm.
And I also agree with Joe. There are more elite of the era, and we'll get to those
Yeah.
as we go.
All right. Well, Jane, would you recommend this film to anyone
At Christmas time?
or whenever?
Well,
Probably
I mean,
Christmas
at
time.
Christmas time, I would say, well, if you want to see one that you really haven't seen yet, go ahead, watch The Bishop's Wife.
And you, Joe?
I think Jane put it perfectly. If you want to see one that you probably haven't seen yet, watch this one.
Yeah, I think that's probably the correct answer. And I think you'll be surprised. Some of these older films, to some of us, you'll be surprised at how good they are. There's good quality
Oh, yeah.
for it
And
being so old.
You forget the black and white after about 4 minutes.
You
and
really
you just get
do.
immersed in it.
You really do.
And I would also agree and add to that. If you like The Preacher's Wife, check it out.
Yeah.
It's a little different, but you can see where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Jane, what is your favorite holiday film?
My favorite holiday film.
Yeah, what's your number one?
Well, of this era, I think it is Miracle on 34th Street that I have watched a couple of times. Probably the old films of that era because I like the tradition
Yeah.
of Christmas. So for me, it still holds true. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, great. Again, that one's coming up. It's going to be a fun episode. And you, Joe, what's your favorite holiday film?
Well, I agree with Jane. That's a great one. But just to be different, I'll name A Christmas Carol, the original one with Ebenezer Scrooge and all the ghosts from Christmas past, present, and yet to come.
Okay. That one is also coming out. There are like 5 versions of that one.
I know.
The original.
He's
There are
picking their-
multiple originals. I mean, I guess there's a silent, there's like every 15 years they remade that. And you also have spin-offs like Mickey's Christmas Carol, Scrooged. We had a guest come up with a Scrooge movie from the 70s that didn't even come up on our searches. So that's the origin story of a lot of holiday films right there. So many characters are based upon Ebenezer Scrooge.
Right. All right. Well, Jane, is there anything that you would like to promote? Any business or charities?
Well, I'd like to promote Joe's
I was going to say your favorite author.
books. He's my new favorite.
That came to my mind.
I've seen some of those and they're pretty good.
Drone Strike and,
Well, I have to say, Tim is a pretty good writer also. But if you're interested in anything I've written, go to joe-giordano.com. That's my website, and you can read some chapters and you can see what I've written.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check it out.
They get you going. I've read all of Joe's books and he likes international intrigue. You can tell he's well traveled and they're fun. And I like the Italian undertones. So get in there and check out Joe's books. I will put that link in the show notes to this episode down below.
Great. Thank you for joining this discussion of our 29th ranked film, The Bishop's Wife. Please like, follow, and comment on this podcast.
Yes, please share and spread the word about Holiday Film Countdown. Thank you, Jane and Joe, for joining us. And thanks to all our listeners. Next week, we're moving on to our 28th ranked holiday film, which will take us to the Twin Cities.